Okay, so this critique looks at instructional guides and the historical context for çılbır. That's the traditional Turkish poached egg dish with garlicky yogurt and spiced butter. Let's dive into turning precise instructions into a really powerful culinary narrative.
Sounds good.
So we noticed right away, your material is driven by this quest for culinary perfection.
Yeah, in a dish that seems deceptively simple.
Exactly. In that dedication, that's what makes the research so compelling. But the first opportunity we see is about integrating your most powerful piece of history.
Okay.
You've got this really high-stakes historical detail that should probably be moved from, like, an interesting anecdote to become the main narrative framework.
Right. I think I know what you mean. I loved digging into that backstory. You found that fantastic historical nugget, that in the Ottoman Empire, cooking eggs was basically the ultimate tryout.
The audition, yeah.
The audition for chefs trying to get into the royal court, into the Sultan's kitchens.
Mm-hmm.
And that detail, it's currently a little bit buried in the text, you know?
Yeah.
But it instantly elevates çılbır from just a quick weeknight breakfast to something demanding, well, professional-level skill.
That's the weakness right now, that massive historical pressure, the technical demand, it's treated like an interesting aside.
Just a bit of trivia.
Right. Instead of being the core structural backbone for the whole guide, why just tell the reader how to make it perfect?
When you can tell them why they must make it perfect.
Exactly. It's a huge missed opportunity for grabbing the audience right away.
I wonder, though, just playing devil's advocate for a second, if framing it purely as this high-stakes royal audition might risk overwhelming the average home cook?
That's a fair point.
Are we setting the bar maybe too high, pushing people away with professional standards? Or does that challenge actually pull them in more, make them focus?
I think for this audience, the one seeking the definitive guide, the challenge is the hook.
Okay.
So the suggestion is, use this royal audition concept to set the narrative tone right from the start.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah. It justifies why you're focusing so intensely on precise technical steps afterwards. It explains the quest for absolute flawlessness in what looks like a simple dish.
So we ditch the usual opening about, delicious, quick comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, we start with Sultan Mehmed II demanding perfection. So for instance, when you get to the actual poaching, the mechanics of it, needing that perfect orb shape.
That becomes the chef's first test. Pass, fail.
Right. Okay, I see.
So a concrete example?
Mm-hmm.
Take the instruction about draining the eggs. You tell the reader to drain off the loose, watery whites.
For 20 to 30 seconds in a colander, yeah.
Before poaching.
Right.
Critical technique for getting that tight, perfect shape, avoiding the wispy bits.
Okay.
And now, that step gets framed as essential prep, what you had to do to avoid, like, total humiliation in the Sultan's kitchen.
Link the need for those perfectly set whites achieved by that careful draining. You link that directly to the high standards of the royal cart.
Exactly. You're telling a story while giving the detailed instruction. It keeps the reader engaged and underscores why the technique matters so much.
Makes sense. That narrative framing gives the why.
Right. But we need to make sure the technical how is just as flawless, just as clear.
Okay.
Which brings us to the next opportunity we saw. It's about resolving a gap in technical specificity. Specifically, the discussion around poaching the eggs needs to reconcile the precise scientific temperature target with the very practical time-based methods you provide.
Right, where the kitchen science meets sort of home cook reality.
And your material does a great job identifying the goal.
Mm-hmm. You established that the key to the perfect çılbır yolk is hitting an internal temp of 53 Celsius or 127 Fahrenheit.
For that jammy texture.
Yeah, that magic word, jammy. And that number, 53C, it's compelling. It gives that objective certainty.
And that specificity is great. Really good. But hang on. Why exactly 53 Celsius? We need to just briefly explain the sensory reason. Why is that temp the holy grail for a jammy yolk in this dish?
Good question. It's really the textural midpoint. If you go below 53, you risk it being too runny, maybe even cold and slippery in the center.
Okay.
Which doesn't quite enrich the yogurt properly. But if you go above, say, 55C, the proteins tighten up too much.
It gets chalky.
Exactly. The yolk starts to dry out, becomes chalky, loses that perfect sort of velvety, spreadable richness,
Right,
which is crucial for mixing with the garlic yogurt and the spice butter.
right.
So that 53-degree window, that creates the ideal viscous texture.
Okay, that clarifies the stakes for the egg itself. Perfect. Now, here's the weakness we identified. Your step-by-step instructions, they rely entirely on a specific, easy, time-based method.
The 3 minutes off the heat method?
Right. 3 minutes off the heat in salted vinegared water, usually using a heavy pot, like a Dutch oven, specific water volume, like 1.5 quarts.
Mm-hmm.
The crucial weakness is the lack of an explicit connection between the precise scientific temperature, that 53 degrees, and that practical 3-minute timing.
Yeah, I see that. The really technical reader, or maybe just the skeptical one.
Right?
They're immediately wondering, okay, 53C is so critical, is this 3-minute timing actually going to hit that? Or should I get my thermometer out just in case?
Exactly. If you give the scientific benchmark, you have to validate your shortcut against it.
Or explain the conditions needed for the shortcut to work.
Yes. So the suggestion is directly correlate the 3-minute off-heat method with the temperature goal. Clarify if this timing is sufficient, perhaps only if the specific heavy pot and water volume are used.
You have to use the scientific credibility, that 53 degrees, to basically validate the simple technique for the average user.
Right. You need to explicitly reinforce the reliability of your method. You're essentially telling the reader, look, trust us. This specific setup and timing, it is precisely calibrated to hit that temperature result.
That's a huge boost to your authority as the guide. Gives confidence.
Definitely. So the concrete example here is to integrate the temperature into the instruction itself.
Okay.
Rephrase that step to assert the link. Something like, to achieve the critical 53 degrees C, 127 degrees Fahrenheit jammy yolk, use the pre-drained eggs and let them stand in the covered pot off the heat for exactly 3 minutes.
And add the condition.
Yes, add, we verified this method is accurate without a thermometer when using a heavy pot and 1.5 quarts of water.
That's really actionable and precise. The reader doesn't have to choose between the science and the simple method anymore.
You've synthesized them
Yeah.
into one authoritative instruction. It reduces that fear of failure and gives them a clear target and a reliable path.
Okay, I think we've tackled the history and the science now, building up that technical authority.
But when we look at the ingredient list, which should be the final piece of definitive guidance, I noticed a potential point of confusion, something that might actually undermine all that precision work we just talked about.
Ah, the ingredient list.
Right. Is this the paradox of flexibility?
That's a good way to put it. The next opportunity for improvement is about streamlining the preparation options.
Okay.
Because the material's extensive lists of acceptable substitutes, for bread, for spices, it currently kind of dilutes the authority of the master recipe.
And creates choice fatigue, yeah. Especially for someone seeking the definitive guide.
It's honestly staggering. You give the reader almost a dozen bread options. Simit, Turkish pita, artisan bread, pita, bagels.
Even croissants and sourdough are in there.
Right. And then for the butter spice, you list 4 different options. Aleppo pepper, pulbibar, standard crushed red pepper flakes, cumin, or paprika.
And while, flexibility is nice, you want to be helpful if people can't find specific things.
Sure.
The weakness is that the material claims to offer the ultimate or the most authentic version of the dish. But then it fails to really champion and prioritize the specific elements that deliver that traditional experience. If everything works, then nothing feels essential.
And the specific sensory goal you've set up gets watered down. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the suggestion here is consolidate the main instructional focus around the absolute best, most traditional ingredients.
And explain why they're the best.
Yes, clearly explain the unique sensory contribution of each choice. And then reserve all those other substitutes for a separate section, like a clearly labeled appendix or maybe a troubleshooting guide.
Make the reader feel like they're aiming for the perfect version, not just settling for an okay substitute.
Right, let's start with the spice for the butter, because that red fragrant oil is so crucial visually and texturally.
Okay.
You mentioned biber, Aleppo pepper. That absolutely has to be the non-negotiable focus.
And you need to say why.
Exactly. Why? Because it gives you that unique, complex, fruity warmth and a mild heat. It's distinctly different from just standard crushed red pepper flakes, which are often just pure aggressive heat.
Right, and it avoids the kind of smokiness or sometimes dullness you get from paprika.
That's the sensory payoff we need to highlight explicitly. Make the case that biber is superior for this dish.
So the concrete example emphasizes its unique physical traits too.
Yes, that mildness, the fact that the flakes are soft, a bit oily, slightly coarse.
Easy to pick up with your fingers and sprinkle.
Exactly. Sprinkle generously without worrying you're going to blow someone's head off with heat.
Okay, makes sense for the spice. And applying that same logic to the bread, which is arguably the main tool for eating the whole thing.
It really is.
We need to focus solely on the traditional choices, like pide or achma.
I think so, yes. And again, explain why we prioritize those. The material needs to detail why their high surface area or their chewiness or their specific crumb structure makes them better.
Superior for maximizing that whole yolk, yogurt, butter combination.
Absolutely. Listing a regular baguette or, heaven forbid, a croissant, it just fundamentally changes the eating experience. It moves away from the traditional textural balance you're trying to achieve.
So stick to the traditional elements, be assertive about why they matter most for the authentic experience.
Precisely.
Got it.
So stick to the traditional elements, be assertive about why they matter most for the authentic experience.
Precisely.
Got it. Okay, well, this has been a really dynamic look at how to lift your guide from just technically sound to being powerfully authoritative and really engaging.
Yeah, I agree. We focused on the bigger picture, really trying to maximize the reader's experience by weaving in the history, backing up the kitchen science, and then streamlining the ingredients to keep that authority you built up.
So the three main takeaways for refinement are, first, reframe your introduction. Use that high-stakes Ottoman chef audition story to set the stage immediately for precision and justify the technical detail.
Right. Second, synthesize the poaching instructions. Definitively link that 3-minute timing to the crucial 53 Celsius goal. Give the reader confidence that your easy method is actually scientifically reliable under the right conditions.
And third, streamline the core recipe. Center the discussion on the traditional, superior choices like biber and authentic Turkish bread, explain their unique sensory roles, and push the substitutions to a separate section to maintain that narrative focus and authority.
Yeah, those high-level structural and narrative tweaks should really help ensure the material maximizes engagement and delivers that definitive, authoritative chil-bir guide the reader is looking for.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing the refined material. Please feel free to implement this feedback and submit your work back in again for a future critique.